we went over new notation last Friday that said, hey, I may not call this side AC anymore. I'm going to start referring to it as lowercase b. Why? Because it's across from angle B. All right, so I'm looking for side B. So this is the side I'm looking for. The side across from angle B. Lowercase c, the side across from angle C is 24. And then I give you some of the angles. Angle B is 22 degrees, and angle A is 118. All right, and we talked Friday. None of anything I showed you in this unit I can't use because this is not a right triangle. So if you want to use SOHCAHTOA, I can't use it. 30, 60, 90, 45, 45, 90, Hill SAS, can't use any of that stuff. It's not a right triangle. So I introduced something that can be used in any type of triangle. Any type, even if it is a right triangle, you can use what's called the law of sines, which was a proportion. And here's how you fill out the proportion. You start with a side. So I'm going to start out with the side I'm looking for, side B. Underneath it, we put the angle across from that side. So the angle across is 22, but we just don't put 22. This is the law of sines. We put sine of 22. So it's side across from the angle, side over the angle across from it. And I got to do it again on the other part of the proportion. The only other side I know is 24, but you guys look across, that angle is blank. It won't be blank for long because you know how to find it. All right, especially when I gave you the other two angles already. Don't just plug in 118 because it's the remaining angle, right? Don't plug in 118 up, it's the angle that's left over. No, I want the angle across from 24. And that should be 40. Once I subtract those two from 180. All right, and just like we've been solving proportions all year long, cross multiply. Here we go, cross multiply. So when I cross multiply one side, I get 24 times the sine of 22. And when I cross multiply the other way, I get b times sine 40. We're looking for side B, so get rid of the sine of 40. Divide both sides by sine of 40. And just make sure we round appropriately. Integer, remember, integer means whole number. (14). Side B has a length of 14. So that was a quick review, how to find a side. Hopefully you guys left some room there because I got another problem. That's how you find a side using law of sines. Let's go over and review how do you find an angle. Okay, so here's the second review problem I want you to put on that page if you have room. How do I find an angle using law of sines? Okay, label your triangle with your sides with the new notation here. I got 21 across from angle C, 16.1 across from angle B, and finally 26 across from angle A. And then I got angle A is 88 degrees. What's angle C looking like? Angle C. All right, here we go. Law of sines to find the angle. Let's start out with side 26. I'm going to start with 26 because I know the angle across, which is sine of 88. All right, I don't want to use 16.1 because I don't know the angle across from that one. So 26 and the sine of 88 equal to 21. Now what's going on? I just don't want an X on the bottom, right? Don't want an X there. Sine X, or in this case, I'm going to put sine of C because we're looking for angle C. So, but you can put an X there if you want. Just make sure the sign is with it. All right, let's keep cross multiplying. Sine of 88 times 21 equals 26 times sine C. Get sine C by itself. Let's get sine C by itself. Divide by that 26. And I'll write, hey, I get a little decimal here, right? 0.807. Doesn't turn it into a fraction, so I'll leave it like this. That's not my angle, though. Let's be realistic here. I'm not going to give you a problem where the angle's less than a degree. That's the sine ratio. That's the sine ratio. And this is the same question I've been asking you all unit. Anytime I ask for a degree, anytime, whether I'm using SOHCAHTOA or now the law of sines, anytime I ask for a degree for your final answer, where do I need to go on the calculator? Shift, right? The arc, right? The arc, sine, cosine, tangent, whatever we're looking for. And that's where I have to go here. That is not your angle, 0.8 degrees. That's ridiculous. Sorry, I'm not going to ask you for an angle less than a degree. So now I go shift sine, and then put in my decimal or a fraction, whatever it comes in the form, whatever form it comes in. So anytime I'm asking for an angle, we got to remember, I'm going to need to use the shift button at the end. And what did I ask for? Nearest tenth? Yep. Now you could say angle C, 53.8 degrees. All right, questions there. So that's using law of sines to find a side, and a quick review on how to find an angle. Because what I need to show you today, can't use law of sines, don't have enough info. So I need to show you one last technique. Anything here? All right, anything come up on the, I know most of you got through a majority of it last Friday, but in class, anything we need to cover on using law of sines in your textbook? Going? Okay, go to day 13 for me now. Go ahead, go to day 13. Go to day 13. And why can I not use law of sines anymore? All right, good. Go ahead, set up the first one for me. Set up triangle RST, and we'll talk. Don't try to answer the question though, because it's gonna be a little tough. So go ahead, set up triangle RST with the correct sides and angle. I'll do the same thing with you guys. Okay, got the diagram all good? All right, nobody, don't take any more notes. Let me try to solve this using law of sines, because that's all we know. Watch what happens when I try to use law of sines now. And you guys will see the problem I come up with. So t, right? Over sine of 120. Nobody has an issue there. We're all good there. Sine over 120. All right, everyone ready now? Here comes my problem. What am I going to put 11 over? Sine r, and now I have a different variable. Everyone see that problem? All right, what if I change this to a 12 instead? Because that side is 12. Do I want to call that sine s on the other side? No. So everyone see the problem? I don't have enough information for law of sines, and that will happen. So finally now, I got to give you the last technique that can be used in any triangle. We have the law of sines. Now let me introduce law of cosines. Law of cosines. And bad news, it's a little bit tougher to remember than the law of sines. It's not a proportion. Here's what it is. A squared, and I'll go over what each piece means in a second, equals b squared. Oh, that looks familiar, doesn't it? It's like Pythag. That's where this thing was born from, Pythag. Minus 2bc cosine A right here at the top of your page. Right away, I'll let you know. I'm not going to give that to you on the test Thursday. That's for you to remember. Okay, that's for you to remember. All right, so let me go through nice and slow what each piece of that formula means. A, B, and C. Those are your three sides. But I got to make sure we understand that's not side A, side B, and side C. Because look, what's this triangle called? We're already out of luck. All right, so that does not mean side A, side B, side C. What it means is A, whatever side we put on the left side, that's going to be, here you go, the side across from the given angle. That's what we plug in for A. Not side A. It's always going to be the side across from the angle in the problem. Because when you use law of cosine, you'll always have one angle. So that's what I plug in there, the side across from the given angle. B and C. And does everyone see I have a B and C again come up? Same one, same B and C. Right? These are all the same here. B and C, B and C. Those are the other two sides. I already plugged in a side over here. Now I plug in the other two sides here. And again, whatever you plug in for B squared, it's the same as the B over here. Same for C. And the only other thing we have is big A here, right? I don't know. It could be angle A. It could be angle R. It could be angle X. Whatever it is, it's the given angle in the problem. The given angle. So if law of sines isn't going to work, law of cosines will. All right, so let's take it slow still. And now let's go to triangle RST and see what values we plug in. What angle am I given? There's only one angle in this problem. What is it? 120. What side is across from it? T. So that's what I start law of cosines off with. Ready, everybody? T squared. Why don't I pick 11 or 12? It's not across from the angle I gave you. The angle I gave you is 120 degrees, and the side across is T. So that's what I start law of cosines out with. Equal to the other two sides now, which are 12 and 11. So it doesn't matter which one you start with. So 12 squared plus 11 squared. Good so far. Let's keep going. Minus 2. That's always there. And B and C are the same B and C we just plugged in. 12 times 11. So 12 times 11. Ready? Cosine. What's my given angle? 100 and, so the cosine of 120 degrees. And good news for us, I don't even want you to do it. I do not want you to go piece by piece and try to figure it out. Let's type this all in at one shot in your calculator. All right, you can type this all in one shot, which is nice. I don't want you to go piece by piece because that's where mistakes will happen. Let's type it in all in one shot. Now, that number you're seeing in your calculator is not the side length, right? 397. That looks a little ridiculous with an 11 and a 12, doesn't it? But that's what t squared equals. Everyone's getting 397? 397. Just type it all in your calculator, one shot. That's t squared. So how do I get to t? Take the square root of both sides. And now round to the nearest integer. So that side length is about 20. So hey, law of sines didn't work, and now we have something else. Anything right there? All right, let's keep going. One doesn't make you great. Go ahead, set up the second one. We have a little change here, you'll notice. Something a little different that we didn't have in number one. All right, little change there. I didn't give you what angle B was, but I did give you what the cosine ratio was for angle B. So when we get to that part in law of cosines, how do I deal with that? Oh, what are we finding? B? All right, you're ready. Again, A doesn't mean side A. And A squared equals B squared plus, that doesn't mean it's the side across from the angle. All right, what angle do we know about? What angle are we given information about here? There's only one out of the three. Which angle do we know some info about? Angle B. What's the side across from it? B. So that's what I'm starting law of cosines out with. B squared. Hopefully that doesn't blow your mind because I know the formula says A squared. It's the side across from the angle we're working with. The only angle I know information about is right here. Angle B. So I put the side across equals, ready. Other two sides squared, 6 squared plus 4 squared. You can interchange those if you have to. Minus 2 times 6 times 4. And now everybody stop now, please. Because what do I do with that 1/16? All right. I am not, hey. You're not going to see me write this. Is that the angle measure, 1/16? No. I don't put the cosine with it unless it's an actual angle measure in degrees. I am already giving you this value. It's 1/16. So I'm not going to put the cosine with it. I'm just going to put, son of a gun. I was on fire there. 1/16. That's it. The only time I put the cosine with it is if it's an actual angle measure in degrees. Right? That's the only time I want to put the cosine with it. I know that value now. It's 1/16. If you put the cosine with it, you're telling me that angle's 1/16 of a degree. No, that doesn't sound right. All right, so if the only time I put cosine with it, if it's an actual angle measure in degrees. All right, go to do your thing now. All right, we talked. You can type this all in one step. Only put the cosine with it if it's an actual angle measure. We got a nice perfect number there, huh? Literally. So 7. So just before we move on, take a quick peek. Difference between this one and number 1. The only time I put cosine with it is if it's an actual angle measure in degrees. If I give you what the cosine ratio is, just plug it in. All right, just plug it in. No cosine needed. It's got to be an actual angle measure. All right, any issues yet? Because now all we've been solving is for the left side. Now I'm going to plug a number in there, and I need you to solve for something on the right side now. We all good on solving for the side on the left? All right, go ahead. Set up. Do your thing. Set up number 3. Right now it's cosine B. That's what we need to solve. What's the cosine ratio for B? And you're not doing adjacent over hypotenuse, all right, because it's not a right triangle. So how can I use law of cosines? All right, let's start it off. What side should I start off with, 10, 5, or 7 here? Based on what we've been shown here the last 2 problems. Should I start out with law of cosine as 10 squared, 5 squared, or 7 squared? What's the only angle we're talking about in the problem? Cosine of angle B. What's the side across from angle B? 7. So that's how I know to start off with 7 squared. We all right? I'm not asked. I don't know anything about A or C. I'm asked about angle B. All right, let's keep going. Other 2 sides squared. 10 and 5 squared minus 2 BC, 10 and 5. Look what we have now. Cosine B, the angle we're looking for. So again, whatever angle's here, the side opposite should be on the other side of the equal sign. Anything about plugging in? Because now I need I need some algebra studs in here to get that by itself. Because that's what we're asked to solve for, cosine B. So unfortunately, unlike the last 2 problems, I just can't go choo-choo-choo-choo all in one side. It's not going to get me anywhere. All right, figure out each value now. Watch what happens. Figure out each value. 7 squared, 49, right? 10 squared, 100. 5 squared, 25, minus 2 times 10 times 5. What's that going to be, 100? Cosine B attached to it. All right, my question to you guys, ready? Can you combine all 3 of those? Can I just combine my terms and put a cosine B with it? And I get, some of you may not know, and I get it. Let me make it easier on you. Could you combine these 3? 100 plus 25 minus 100x. Could you combine all 3 of those? Now some of you are like, heck no, absolutely not, because they're not like terms. That one's got an x. It's the same thing up here. Instead, I got a cosine B. So I cannot combine all 3, but you can combine which 2, though? Not all 3, but combine at least the 100 and the 25. So let's do that. So I get 49 equals 125 minus 100. We're getting there. I know it's tempting to write 25 cosine B down, but we just proved you can't combine those. All right, so now take over now. Let your algebra skills take over. I want to get cosine B by itself. What's got to move over now? What do we got to move to the other side? Can't combine anything else. Got to start moving stuff to get cosine B by itself. What are we moving over? That's what I thought too. Good guess. One more time before I go to the numbers. There you go. Move over the 125 by subtracting it over. What's that? A negative 64? Yeah. Negative 64. Am I doing that? 76. All right, that too. Common mistake here. Oh, we see it every year. Don't drop that negative. It's still attached to the 100. So negative 100 cosine B. All right, almost there. Remember, we're solving for cosine B. How do I get the negative 100 out? Yep, divide it out. And now we'll know the cosine ratio. So the cosine ratio coming from angle B. So what I got? Negative 76 over negative 100. Can you put 0.76? You can. I probably prefer a fraction. All right, I prefer the fraction, especially if that decimal is really, really long and you don't want to write it out. So the cosine ratio, 19 over 25. And that's all I'm looking for. What's the cosine ratio? That's all the problem asks. What's the cosine of B? Cosine ratio from B. We know how to find a sine. We know how to find a cosine ratio. Last thing I need to do with you, last problem here for the day. How do I find an angle now? Wait, hold on. Let me say it again. How do we find an angle? So guess what's going to happen at the end of this? Shift button, right? Shift button. If I ask you to find an angle, shift button at the end. Hey, and all I'm going to do is same exact thing as we did for this problem. We're going to take this one extra step and do shift at the end. That's all we're doing. Okay, we're going to take this one extra step. So we're still going to solve for cosine, but we're going to do shift at the end. Set it up. Let's roll. And we're looking for angle E. What's angle E? Okay, which side are we going to start out with? 8 or one of the 5s? 8. It's across from the angle involved in the problem, right? Which is angle E. So 8 squared equals 5 squared plus 5 squared minus 2 times 5 times 5. Cosine. I'm going to put an E here because that's the angle we're going to be looking for. All right, same thing as last problem now. Let's get cosine E by itself. What is the I need to know what the ratio is before you do the shift button. What's the cosine ratio for angle E? So here we go. 64, 25, 25 minus 50. And we remember we cannot combine all 3. All right, we just showed that cannot combine all 3 of those. Plus, even if you did, I think you'd get 0, and that would cause a little bit of an issue. But combine the first 2 25s to get 50. Minus 50 cosine E. Again, I know it's tempting to put a 50 minus 50, but let's subtract over the first 50. Our goal is to get cosine E by itself. Bless you. We're looking at 14. Don't drop the negative on that 50. Divide both sides by negative 50. Negative 7/25. Is that what you get in the calculator, right? All right, this is where we ended the last problem because we found the cosine ratio. Now I want to actually find the darn angle. This is where you guys told me shift button at the end. Shift button, yes. Make sure you're doing cosine now, though. Shift cosine. And what do we got? Nearest degree. (106). Also keep in mind, before I let you go and do this last problem on your own, I will never ask you to use law of cosines to solve for these here. Okay? Never. It's going to be one of three things. Solve for the side across from the angle. That's what we did in the first two problems. Find the cosine ratio or find the angle. That's the only things I'm going to ask you to use law of cosine for. If you find yourself solving for B or C, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. Okay, we're done holding each other's hands. Number 5 is on your own. I'll let you know the answer, 96.9 degrees. If you get that answer, no problem. Move on to the textbook assignment. If you're having issues, call me over. All right, but you should be getting 96.9 degrees out.